It's the worst rebrand ever.
I think the biggest unexploded bomb here for Meghan is this company in New York. There was 100% definitely a massive rivalry between the Sussexes and the Waleses. This sort of thing, you would absolutely cut and dry say 100% massive rivalry. They would want to be competing and outdoing each other. I would buy him a plane ticket to New York to cooperate with the FBI. They were asking to speak to him as a witness, and we never got confirmation that it happened.
Hello and welcome to Royal Exclusive. As ever, I'm Matt Wilkinson, the Sun's Royal Editor. And joining me in the studio today is the Sun's legendary photographer, Arthur Edwards, and Newsweek's chief royal correspondent, Jack Royston. Right, let's get stuck in. Now, Royal Exclusive, okay, on this show, we're normally fair and balanced, particularly when it comes to the Sussexes. But I can't avoid it this week because Meghan has launched, as ever. It's a calamity for me. It's a bit of a disaster. It's quite embarrassing. We've had all these problems with American Riviera Orchard, all the trademark issues. Suddenly, as ever comes out, and there's all these issues with the mayor in Mallorca and this company in New York saying, well, actually, this is our name as well. It's the worst rebrand ever. Jack?
I think the biggest unexploded bomb here for Meghan is this company in New York. You know, the Spanish town is embarrassing. They're kind of saying it looks like Meghan's ripped off their logo. It's a bit awkward, but they're not trading on the American market. So there's no way that that Spanish town, I don't think, can actually sink this rebrand. But this company in New York, if they file a legal challenge here and say, look, we are as ever, you're going to sink us, because, you know, she, in Google search terms, she's going to blow them out of the water. You know, they'll be buried. She's going to absolutely bury them on Google. And if they challenge it to try to protect their business and she is forced to change the name again, then that is disaster levels of catastrophe for her. Because you can rebrand once and people are like, oh, right, okay, this is a bit awkward. But if you rebrand twice, it just looks like it's going to look like a failure. And this is actually a window for her where she could finally launch something that is successful, that Americans want to buy. You know, Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop is successful, people like it. It's niche, you know, it's not probably for everybody, but people do regard it as a success. So it's an important moment for Meghan and one she'll want to get right. If this is now actually torpedoed by this New York fashion line, then she's in big
You mentioned
trouble.
about the New York fashion, or the New York shop, and we spoke to Mark Kolsky this week, and I think he posted that it was royally scandalous, the similarities between the names, but he's basically admitted that he's kind of powerless to do anything because Meghan's such a behemoth, you know, it's got Netflix backing. But Arthur, were you excited about the release of Meghan's video, a 70-second clip announcing that her new project is called As Ever?
Didn't even watch it. I mean, that's how excited I was. Oh, I think this, she should do a bit of her homework before she does these things. I mean, she's already upset the small island of Mallorca by you know, ripping off their mask, their sign, and then now the mayor's upset about that, and he's threatening to take some legal action. So, you know, everything she's doing at the moment, she's doing it because she's not thought it through. As Jack said, she's not researched it. She's not decided if that's the right way to go. And certainly when you're naming it after other companies, that can't be that hard to find out.
Yeah.
Just go online and find out.
It's all been a bit of a mess. I mean, you pointed out that American Riviera Orchard, about a year ago, we had the announcement that that was going to be the name.
Yes.
And then we had, I think last September, the patent and trademark offices raised some serious concerns about the name, but also the description of the products. But in that video that Arthur hasn't seen, but we unfortunately have had to watch several times, she almost paints that loss as a victory, where she says, well, I wanted to call it American Riviera Orchard, but because they said that we had to have things grown in a certain area, I actually want to go with As Ever, and she's moved on. She's got an amazing skill of kind of turning things round from a failure into saying, oh, actually, this is a success.
Which is potentially no bad thing as long as it is a success. You know, that's the key thing. What happened with American Riviera Orchard was she launched it really early, too early, before it was ready, really. You know, in an ideal world, you'd probably get all the patent copyright stuff done and sorted before you actually do the soft launch. That way, you don't then have to retract it if you run into problems. I think probably what happened was she was scared that people like us were going to find it and we're going to report on it early, and she wanted to be in control of how she released it. But it's so early to release something that's basically just telling people you're going to make jam, which, you know, it's not exactly rocket science making jam. Jam tastes like jam. I'm sure it will be delicious jam. Most jam is. But to then have to wait a year and now we're on to our second soft launch and we still don't have any jam. Like how this jam now needs to be like the world's greatest ever jam. And unless all the other jam makers out there are missing something that Meghan's lighted on, it's just not going to live up to the really long wait for delivery. So she's saying now that we're probably going to get it in the spring. She's going to come up with something more. We're going to get probably the hard launch. So hopefully there'll be not just the jam, but a bunch of other things that people can actually buy, and she can move past this really awkward stage where she's trying to get it up and running, and actually she can then find out, apart from anything else, is this actually going to be a success, or is this going to be another project that gets launched, has a quick run, and then she has to move on and find something else?
Well, you mentioned that, and you look back through her CV. I mean, if you think Sussex Royal was up for a little bit of time, and then that was asked not to be used by the royal family. Archetypes had one series and then disappeared. The TIG that she's now, not using. Pearl, the show on Netflix, that Netflix didn't want to go ahead with that show, the cartoon show, the animated show. Working member of the royal family, that was something that wasn't successful for Meghan. I mean, there is a long list of failures that Meghan has on her CV.
The podcast on Spotify, that was another failure, So, she's good at failure.
I think that, the bench is another one, but all of this stuff, as long as she gets to something in the end that's really successful, she won't care. Like, she will move on from all of these things. She won't even look back on them. She won't even give them another second's thought. But she needs to find out really quickly whether this is going to be it. And at the moment, like, it just doesn't feel to me like Jam can live up to the amount of pressure that she's putting on it, because she's tied it to her Netflix show. So the two things will succeed or fail together. So for Meghan, like, this really is the brand now. And we're living in an age, Martha Stewart is years and years and years ago. We're living in a different world now. She's making, with the Netflix show, she's making something that feels like linear scheduled TV. It feels like an old school, daytime, a bit of good fun, cooking TV, right? And there was a place for that. But is there a market for it on streaming platforms? When people watch TV through streaming platforms, it's a very different experience. You want to sit back, you want to watch a box set, you want to watch 10 episodes in a row. Like, is there a market for what Meghan's doing in the modern world of streaming? So it's another thing where she needs to find out really quickly whether this is going to work or not, because if it doesn't, it's going to be moving on again to something new, and she's going to have to work out pretty quickly what that's going to be. And every time something doesn't quite land, it's even more pressure on the next thing to be the one that makes her name in America again. And I have to say, I still cannot for the life of me work out why she did not just do a Suits reboot. Like, acting is what first forged a relationship between Meghan and the American people. Suits has had an absolute wild run recently that nobody saw coming. It's been so successful and loved again. I cannot for the life of me work out why she didn't just do a Suits relaunch.
Well, she said she doesn't want to go back to being an actress.
It's a crazy decision.
But that was her talent. I mean, I just listed lots of things that have failed, but Suits was reasonably successful.
It was a success. And look, if she'd barely need to be in it. She could do a few scenes here and there, and that would make the relaunch of the show. So it's madness to me that she didn't just do what she's good at, what she's known for, and it's a quick win, and it would have been fantastic. But for some reason she doesn't want it.
No. Arthur, I mentioned that I thought this was the worst rebrand ever. There's a narrative that still bounces around where there's a suggestion that the royal family were a little bit too quick with Meghan and Harry, and that if they'd taken their time, they could have found a place, given them a bit more leeway, and Meghan and Harry could have been successful in the, back in the royal family. They didn't have to run off. They could have stayed here if the royal family had acted better and found a role for them. Looking at these failures, looking at the rebrand, the mess that she's got into, maybe I'm starting to think that we actually did have a lucky escape.
No, actually, the first year after they were married, they were sensational. I mean, I covered every event they did. The crowds were huge. She embraced it. And Meghan was fantastic. She just embraced it, and she was a huge success. There's no reason with that. And Harry and her were a great team. So they were very, very big, and massive coverage. Every paper, every newsreel covered their events. So it wasn't that the decision was hers. She wanted to go and live back in America. She wanted to commercialise her status as a member of the royal family, and she's done it brilliantly. Now she's had a hiccup now with the jam, and a mascot sign. But you know, as Jack says, you know, if it's a success, if she gets a success, then it's right. But you know, a lot of businesses fail. A lot of businessmen, you know, start businesses and they fail, but they carry on and eventually have a success. Well, you know, perhaps she will, because what she's great is great at presenting herself. Whatever the disaster, you never know it when she's talking about it. It's as though it's just a little thing we've got to deal with. You know, the fact that somebody could sue her here and sue her there doesn't seem to worry them. They're good at suing themselves. So it's.
Well, she keeps reinventing herself, keeps remorphing, regenerating like Doctor Who or something. It keeps coming back time after time after time with a new project or a new idea or a new Instagram video or a, you know...
And she sells it, and she sells it. She sold it already to Netflix, so, you know, she's already ahead. The fact that she's just got to find a new name and just hope the jams taste very well, because otherwise it'll fail again.
Will you buy some, Arthur?
Well, I'll give it a go.
You mentioned about Jack, about she made, you know, one of the best projects or one of the most successful ways that she could actually have a career would be an actress. Am I right in thinking, please tell me if I'm wrong, am I right in thinking that she is now a social media influencer?
Yeah, well, she effectively... No, I'd say that she effectively is a social media influencer. I mean, the essence of an influencer is that they're supposed to be persuading people to buy things using social media. And that is effectively where this is going. I mean, she might not quite have got to that point because the online shop's not live yet, but the website's there, it's got its own Instagram account. She is effectively a social media influencer. There was a time when, you know, that would have been caused people to, you know, be very snooty about it and cast aspersions against her. To be honest with you, I think we're almost kind of past that point. It's more just for Harry and Meghan now, they have to make something work. There's no point worrying about whether people are a bit snooty about influencers. They just have to really land this because, you know, the polo show didn't really flop. You know, it didn't really land, it flopped. All their other Netflix shows, apart from the one that trashed the monarchy, have flopped effectively. Harry, you know, in polo, he didn't even really seem to be trying. Like, he really phoned it in. You know, the cameras were right there filming him, and he didn't give them an interview. So they've got to do something. You know, they've got to make something work. Otherwise, you know, it's the case of living off the money they've already made. And with the security bills they're going to be facing every year, I don't think they've got enough yet.
Yeah, the two biggest shows, the biggest money-making shows was Harry's book, and three, Oprah Winfrey, and the Netflix series, as you say, Trashing the Royals. That was hugely successful, but they can't keep doing that because there's not a lot more to say. And you know, he's obviously, unless they make a success of this, I think they may have to come back.
Oh no! Just finally on this strict topic, we've seen this video of Meghan. Or Arthur hasn't seen it, but I will play it to you later, Arthur. You've got to watch it.
Oh, yeah, can't wait.
We've seen this presentation of Meghan on Instagram. What do you think is the real Meghan? Is this the authentic Meghan? Is it the mum in California that wants to show her life and show her lifestyle and talk about wellness and show off her food? Is it the Meghan that we saw working with the royal family, where we are hearing that, you know, she rubbed people up the wrong way and fell out with everybody? Or is it the Meghan that we saw on Oprah, where she was kind of, you know, criticised, where she was very angry and having settles to score? Are we now seeing an authentic Meghan?
I think Meghan really struggles not to perform as soon as the cameras are on, and that's why she was absolutely perfect for acting. You know, this was the perfect career for her because she is somebody who wants to perform and maybe does struggle to be herself a little bit. And it is, with some people, you know, I've known people where it's very difficult to get down to the really authentic person because they, I don't know, mask or whatever you might say. You know, they are natural performers in public, and it's very, very difficult to get past that performance. But that is exactly the reason why acting was the perfect career for her. She was good at it, and you know, there's this, you know, absolutely perfect project sitting right on the table in front of her, which is just get the gang back together and do Suits.
Yeah. Arthur, what do you think what is the authentic Meghan? Are we seeing that now?
I don't think I've seen it yet, no. I mean, I think she's brilliant on TV when she speaks to the nation. She's got a great way with words. She's got that beautiful smile, and she can sound convincing, but she hasn't convinced me yet.
Fine.
I still feel that you know, it's been a disaster. I think it's been a disaster for Harry as well. I think he's living in as I said before, he's living as a celebrity in a town full of celebrities, and that's all he is, just another celebrity. Here he was somebody. He was very big in this country. He was much loved in this country. And now I think he's, you know, people probably don't read so much about him now. They're probably not that interested. it's just they're just trying to make a living now. And as Jack says, their bills are huge. The security alone, and the upkeep of that house. It's going to take a lot of money, but
And it's jam that's going to pay the bills.
Well, I was going to say it's jam tomorrow.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on to Harry a little bit later. We'll have a little bit, go a bit more deep into what you were saying there about Arthur. Yeah. But I just want to stick on social media. There seems to be a little bit of a social media tit for tat between possibly the Waleses and the Sussexes. Meghan launched her Instagram page, well, officially kind of on January the 1st, was it, when she was riding in the sand? And she's many videos in the last couple of weeks, particularly from Invictus. But William and Catherine seem to be doing a lot more. We saw this week the sketches that the princes, that are drawn and they put them on. We've seen videos of Catherine on a school bus. We've seen William with a social media influencer, a TikTok star just a couple of weeks ago. And on Valentine's Day, we had William and Catherine looking cosy for Valentine's a little heart, and then Harry and Meghan sharing a kiss on Meghan's Instagram page. Is there a subtle war going on between them online?
Well, you could put the kiss down to the fact they're 8 hours behind us in California, so they probably were going to do it anyway. It could be, but no, I think that's just it's flim-flam, really. I mean, social media. Look at it one day, it's gone the next, and that's how I feel about it, And the fact, George's drawings weren't very good. I didn't think he didn't look like he's going to have an art career in front of him anyway.
Well, they wouldn't tell us who had drawn what. We had to work it out ourselves.
There's one that's definitely much better than the others, which I suppose you'd assume is George because he's older, but it did sort of feel, I could imagine it being Charlotte. I don't know, you can't be certain really, can you? But I think there was 100% definitely a massive rivalry between the Sussexes and the Waleses, dating back to when they were sharing a private office at Kensington Palace. And this sort of thing, you would absolutely cut and dry say 100% massive rivalry. They would want to be competing and outdoing each other. So there probably is a bit of that. I mean, it's hard to move past that. I'm sure that there is an instinct to want to outdo the other couple, whether it's the Waleses or the Sussexes. I also think with Meghan, perhaps there is like the pressure on her to make her project successful may mean that actually that is what's at the forefront of her mind, that actually she's fighting to get back into a space that she'd largely given up. And it's quite interesting that Instagram is her social media channel because most of her fans are on Twitter. That is the real core of where the Sussex squad operate. And Meghan hasn't chosen to make Twitter her space. She's chosen Instagram, which shows a slight bit of disconnect between her and her fan base.
Really interesting point, that actually. Sorry, carry on. But
no, I mean it is. She is trying to exist. Instagram is great for celebrities, and celebrities love it. It gives them a slightly more positive space in which they can just, their post is king. Like that is the key thing about Instagram. You post the picture, anybody who comments underneath it is subordinate to your original post. Whereas on Twitter, no one post has priority over another. Your entry into the discussion can be any post in a thread. You might come in at post number 27 because somebody you follow is throwing mud at Meghan. Whereas on Instagram, your entry is always the celebrity's post. So that's probably why she's done it. But it reflects the fact that she is now fighting to get into a very competitive space where all the influencers live, all the influencers are fighting for audience. And actually, she would be well advised to forget any competition with Kate and William because the people she's going to be competing in are the other celebrities who are all also trying to sell their products too. So that's going to be where the real competition lies for Meghan.
The debacle around this isn't going to help that. The debacle around the Mallorca coat of arms and this business in New York isn't going to help her credibility, I don't think. Just a little bit on Prince Andrew. So this week, Prince Andrew turns 65 years old. Now, ordinarily, members of the royal family would get, posts on social media from Buckingham Palace. Prince Andrew, unfortunately, gets nothing like that because he's no longer a working royal. I don't really think they'd want to do it. But we had a little look around the area on the day of his birthday, and I think there were some flowers arrived in the morning, and Andrew went horse riding in the grounds of Royal Lodge. Yeah. So quite a quiet birthday for him, but that's the right thing to do, isn't it? You can't celebrate your 65th birthday if you're Prince Andrew publicly. No,
absolutely not. I mean, there was a whole debacle previously, you might remember, about the bells at Westminster Abbey being rung on his birthday, and there was a lot of pressure on them to stop. Basically, COVID kind of kicked it into the long grass for a while, and they were able to seamlessly just basically not.
That was your story, Jack, wasn't it? I remember.
one of the versions of it was my story, yeah. So look. He can't celebrate his birthday. It's right that he doesn't. There are still really important questions that he should be answering, in my opinion. I think he should have given a deposition to the FBI. If they weren't even trying to speak to him as a suspect. They wanted to speak to him as a witness. It was the least he could have done. He's now bringing more pressure and more concern for Charles with his relationship with this Chinese alleged spy, Yang Tengbo, who obviously denies being a spy. And we are now getting more and more stories coming out about where Andrew's getting his money from, which suggests that actually Yang Tengbo might have been, the thin edge of the wedge. And there's potentially a lot more to come out on him. One of your stories, Matt, in fact, him selling his contacts for pitch at Palace, and where those are going and who's benefiting from it. And for Charles, obviously Andrew's going to need money if he's going to stay at Royal Lodge for the rest of his life. He's going to need money, major amounts of money, for the rest of his life. And if I was Charles, I'd be very concerned about where that money is going to come from, because if he's willing to become a close confidant of a guy who basically the British think is a Chinese spy, who's asking him to smuggle people in and out past security unseen, who's clearly trying to foster a particular type of relationship that has rule breaking sewn into it. I mean, that is absolutely the behaviour of somebody who's trying to cultivate a source, an asset, a contact. I would be very worried about the Andrew situation if I was Charles.
Well, the issue is they can't scrutinise his finances. That's one of the issues.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, they can't actually go through his finances, but we'll have to wait and see. Andrew, of course, was offered Frogmore Cottage many years ago.
And turned it down because the guy's got an ego on him, basically.
Yeah. One person who used to live there is Prince Harry with Meghan. Invictus Games has finished, Arthur. Yeah. Did anyone watch it? Was it a successful failure? Did it really break through this year?
I don't know if I saw one picture of anyone playing the games. I never saw one of that. All I saw was Meghan and Harry, and holding hands and not holding hands, and that just seemed to be the whole event.
Does he need a rebrand, a Meghan-style rebrand? Does he need an Instagram page where he can get his message across?
Well, you think about. You've got to think of the positive. The Invictus Games is a good thing. What he's done there is brilliant, Harry, and then you've got to congratulate him for that. And the fact that Meghan this time went to support him for a few days is nice, because she's busy flogging her jam at the moment. So to manage to get up there and spend a few days with the injured soldiers was pretty good. No, I think the Invictus Games is probably one of the best things Harry's ever done. I've done lots of work with those injured soldiers. Some are missing 3 limbs, and yet they still want to go and train and compete in these games, and they get to see these lovely spots. I've been to Whistler; it's a beautiful place, and I think that's a great thing he's done. And the fact that Meghan's gone up there to help him is brought a lot more publicity to the games, but we never actually saw anybody playing the games. Now, when I went to the games in Colorado Springs, I got pictures published of Harry playing basketball with the injured soldiers and getting involved in the games. He doesn't seem to do that. He just seems to walk around and shake hands with everybody.
Very true.
Yeah.
But obviously, the next games, as he confirmed in his final speech, will be in Birmingham, in the UK, which brings up all sorts of diplomatic incidents, possibly, because will any members of the royal family go? And also, it's being held in July 2027, which will be Queen Camilla's 80th birthday. So do you think any members of the royal family will go to the games in Birmingham? They went to the London ones.
Well, you never know, do you? The thing is if you can't sort of predict 2 years' time.
That's exactly what the palace said to me. I asked them this week, and they said, well, it's a long way in the future.
Because the royal family are funny way they operate, I could never believe that Harry and his brother split up like they did, that this schism is evolved. I watched those kids grow up together, watch them do everything together. They always talked about each other, always joked with each other. I watched them play football against each other. And I can't believe something must have seriously happened there that turned William against his brother like he has. And that, to me, probably means he won't be going to the Invictus Games. But the King, will he go? I don't know. Birmingham, I've been up there and done a few previews on it, and it's going to be quite an impressive place to do it. And I think our paper, I think the news in this country will get involved in it tremendously then. I think we'll see a lot more than we saw from Whistler.
Jack, do you think King, Queen and William or...
I would like to see the King and Queen be there, but I don't think they will. I think
you've got to not so much supporting Harry, but supporting the troops. The King is very involved in that. I've been with him when I remember once at Colchester, and this paratrooper 3 limbs he lost, and he was getting across that square, and he was like fighting to keep going and just to get his medal off the king, you know. And the king was so proud of him, and I think he would. I think the king would probably go. Yeah, I think
that's a really good point. Maybe not, but I mean, maybe not to 100% show support to Harry, but to show support for the project.
The troops. Oh yeah, because it's a great thing they're doing. You know, this is the thing. A lot of these men were mentally ill, and they were so depressed, and they got this incentive to go and practice and play some sort of sport, whatever it is. And it's been tremendous. And
we get cabinet ministers there. You know, the politicians will be represented.
Well, they all have to be at those places.
Yeah, but this is the thing: is if you're going to have the government represented, does it look like, you know, you don't want it to be the elephant in the room?
Yeah, well, Justin Trudeau was there in Canada.
Justin Trudeau was there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those situations where like the monarchy doesn't want to look petty and doesn't want to look vindictive, and if it looks like basically, you know, Charles is still Harry's father.
I think you've got to think more of the people competing. I think it's all about them more or less, and not about Harry. Although I do feel Harry did a great thing starting it, and I remember it started because he was flying back from Afghanistan. There was a lot of injured soldiers on the plane. Yeah, it was you know, tremendous what he's done. Everything he's done, in my view, charity-wise, has been brilliant. You know, I mean, this charity in Lesotho, you know, with these African kids and World Child and these things, he gets totally involved with it, and I think he's brilliant at it. You know, sadly, he's just spoiled himself with all this book and this Netflix film, and you live in hope that they can reunite in some ways, the brothers, I mean, because, you know, I had a brother, I loved him dearly, and I miss him. You know, he's no longer with us, but I couldn't believe anything could come between, not a woman anyway, could come between the two of us. You know, we just had too much time. We grew up together. We grew up in poverty together, but, you know, we sort of, I would never want to ever say a bad word about him, but this schism must have been something huge for it to happen, because, I mean, it's awful. And some of the things he's written about William in his book, you know, it just terrible. I can't stand it. I can't bear the thought of it, you know, that one day they couldn't just reconcile their differences. And
well, we've got 2.5 years till this diplomatic time bomb, you know, to see who turns up to the Invictus Games. But yeah, it kind of would be nice to see them together. But that's, you know, long way. Harry's got to apologise first, and it's a long way off. So that's
well, we'll see. You know, you never know. Everybody's got a moment in their life when they probably want to change somewhere, and over the course of their life, I think he might do that. I don't think it's too great what he's got at the moment. Personally, I think it's pretty boring life. I mean, after he's fed the chickens in the morning, I don't know what else he does for the rest of the day.
Helps spooning the jam.
Yeah, of course, tasting the jam, I mean, it's difficult for him.
Let's move on. Now, Arthur, we are hoping to go to Italy in a couple of months' time, because the King will be there and he'll be going to Vatican City, and we would be hoping that he would see the Pope. But Pope Francis is very unwell at the moment. We would hope that if the Pope is still around when we go in April, that the King will meet. But you have met Pope Francis at least once, I believe. We have it up here, actually. We've got you here, and there's the King, or as he was then, Prince Charles in the background.
Prince Charles introduced me to the Pope. He said, "Holy Father, this is Arthur Edwards, and he's been working with me for over 40 years." And the Pope said, "Pray for me." And shook hands with him. I was absolutely, because I'm a practicing Catholic, so I was really overwhelmed by that, you know, really. And obviously, you know, to be introduced like that by the Prince, it was overwhelming, and it's a great moment in my life. I mean, if sadly our Pope didn't last till, if he died before the King's visit, there would be another Pope. I mean, the King's going to the Holy See, not particularly to meet Pope Francis, but whoever's the Holy Father at the time. So, but if, of course, it's funny, you know, that Prince Charles was getting married to Camilla on the day that the Pope was buried, the last Pope, John Paul II, and Charles had to postpone his wedding a day to go to the funeral to elect Pope Benedict. But this man is a great man, Pope Francis, and I just wish him well. I hope he recovers.
We hope to see him in April.
I would. I'd love to see him again, yeah.
And how many popes have you met, Arthur?
3, but I must tell you a follow-up to that. We went to Rome a couple of months later for an ordination, and on an ordination, the whole of the steps of St. Peter's is covered in priests and cardinals. It's massive, and the Pope is the head of the ceremonies. And then afterwards at the English College, Prince Charles said to me, "I'm sorry I couldn't introduce you to the Pope today, Arthur. He was very busy."
Oh, great. And finally, today's been a little bit, well, I suppose it's not been too depressing. We've been up and down throughout the chat. But I'm quite excited because the King, Queen, Princess Anne and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester are all out on a job. It's at Buckingham Palace. They've gone for a reception to reward those with humanitarian efforts, or for their humanitarian efforts. I'm excited because we don't often see this amount of royals going to a reception or an event. Do we need to see more of this, guys?
We might see it, but I don't know if they're going to, if we photograph it. The only one time I photographed the Duke of Gloucester was he was riding out of Kensington Palace on his motorbike. And I remember taking the picture back, and the night editor said, "Oh, look, the Duke of Hazard," and put him in the paper. But that was the only time I ever saw a picture of him published. Look, they're cousins of the King, and they're part of the royal family, and I suppose they're there at the trooping, and they're there at Christmas. They're there for the big occasions. And imagine this humanitarian thing. There's a lot of people there, and
some nice. Good causes. Some good causes they could do with a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, so better that that everybody gets to see someone. I remember, obviously, I've been at these occasions at Windsor Castle, and Princess Anne's been there, and Tim Lawrence, and they're part of it. And sometimes you don't get to meet the King, you don't get to meet the Queen, but you get to meet Princess Anne, and it's a big event as well. And even the Duke of Gloucester. I mean, he's a fine man, but he's not. I mean, look, a lot of people wonder what he even looks like, but I mean, I'm sure when he introduces himself, they want to talk to him. So, no, it doesn't happen often, but I mean,
what do you think, Jack?
It's an interesting one because I don't know if you remember some years ago it was during COVID. There was a point when the royals presented. I think they called it the Magnificent Seven, and it was King Charles and Camilla, and it was Sophie and Edward and Princess Anne. And
they were lined up outside Windsor Castle.
Exactly, this is it. And they're lined up outside Windsor Castle, and it is very dramatic and it is interesting to see. So I think they could do it. They could do more of it. It is also interesting though, in light of the fact that the King is obviously known to want to slim down the monarchy. So it's kind of weird messaging in a way to, on the one hand, want to kind of move away from pictures with loads and loads of royals on Buckingham Palace balcony, and then all of a sudden having kind of an abundance of royals on show. But we also do get this kind of thing at Chelsea Flower Show. We get a bunch of royals out in force there. I think a focus on the kind of top tier royals is never going to go down badly with the public. Jobs where you have the King and the Queen, but you have William and Kate there as well, are always going to go down well. People love Princess Anne. She's kind of the dark horse who's emerged from, the ranks of the royal family to be among people's favourite royals. So they could definitely use her a bit more as well. I'd like to see, Queen Camilla and Princess Anne doing some jobs together. I think that would be a really nice pairing.
Princess Anne is every year she comes out the top of doing engagements every year, so she works extremely hard.
But I'd like to see Princess Anne and Catherine doing a job, or William and Camilla doing a job. It doesn't, and then with the Duke of Gloucester.
I did a job recently.
I don't mix it up.
I did a job this year with Princess Anne and Camilla at the University of London. Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean,
I guess they feel they've been spread thin. And so they're trying to get a whole load of jobs covered, and the more you double up on royals at one given job, the more thinly you're then stretched on all the other engagements that you want to make happen. Perhaps it may be the reason.
Okay, fine, all right. Well, it's just me that wants this to happen then, is it?
No, it's
me
a good
that
idea.
wants them all to get together on big jobs.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right, we have a quick fire questions to finish off with, guys. So take a deep breath and give me your best answers. What would you buy Prince Andrew for his 65th birthday?
I'd probably buy him I don't know, a good television series so he got something to do in the evening.
I would buy him a plane ticket to New York to cooperate with the FBI.
Oh, Jack. One way or return?
Just give it one way.
Oh, that's low. No, it's not low. It's acceptable.
Not low. It's not low. Look, the guy is facing really serious allegations. You have to face him.
But at least a return, not a one way, a return.
What do they need him for now?
Well, they wanted to speak to him as a witness, and we never got confirmation. They were asking to speak to him as a witness, and we never got confirmation that it happened.
Well, if they want him that badly, why don't they speak to the government about getting him over? I think they want him that much. I think they...
He obviously says he's not. He's innocent, by the way. He denies the allegations. It's worth
He
saying.
denies the allegations. Quick fire questions, guys. These are quick fire questions.
Yeah, that was quick, that one.
Who is the royal family's biggest social media influencer?
I think you can make an argument for Meghan being their only actual social media influencer. So I think I'm going to say Meghan.
On numbers, yeah. Arthur?
I think on pictures it's Catherine.
Yeah.
I think when she issues pictures of her children, and I'm a great admirer of her work, and I think she's the one on pictures certainly. But they don't say an awful lot, do they?
No. And finally, there's probably likely to be another Meghan rebrand in 6 months to a year anyway. So what should Meghan call her lifestyle brand?
I think she needs to get a name in there. I'm going to go Forever Meghan.
There we go.
Forever Meghan.
I don't know, never Meghan.
On that note, I think we'll wrap up. Thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun and we've been through lots, so I really appreciate you both coming on.
Welcome, you're welcome.
Well, thanks so much for watching. If you like the show, please leave a comment below because we always read them. And subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode.